Okay, here we are with Stephen Graham Jones. And Stephen, it's been a great year. 2025 has been a great year for your readers. So many of your new books have been issued, but also a number of reissues coming from both Open Road Media and Tor Nightfire. And the year is not over. We've got two more coming out before the end of the year. Very excited to see all the beautiful sinners coming from Open Road Media. And it's going to be dropping on October 28th, as well as a reissue of States of Grace, which has been was originally published in 2014 by Spring Gun Press, but has been nearly impossible for anyone to find. That's going to be coming out on December 9. And of course, you've also got the Earthdivers Omnibus, which is now available everywhere you have comic books and just regular books. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about what folks can expect, starting with All the Beautiful Sinners. This was originally published by Rugged Land in 2003 and then republished in 2011 as an ebook by Chthonica. And I understand that the ebook was a pretty significant revision. What are folks looking to expect from the Open Road release of All the Beautiful Sinners?
Yeah, the re-release of it in digital form in 2011, I had stripped the novel down to, I don't know, what I considered its essentials, I guess, and I changed the epigraph. To me, when you change the epigraph of a novel, that changes everything. I want to say that in the original, it might be Springsteen, and I changed it to Seeger. And I'm not saying there's not an overlap between Bruce Springsteen and Bob Seger fans, but there's a big difference, it's a huge difference to me, of course. And I actually prefer the Bob Seger epigraph, but I think this one, since it is the 2003 version, will have, if it is Springsteen, then I think something about the darkness on the edge of town. Maybe it's from that. I don't remember for sure. I haven't looked at that book in a long time. The hardcover, anyways. Maybe you can check it out, huh? What's it got?
So it has Bruce Springsteen, God have mercy on the man who doubts what he's sure of.
Oh man, yeah, that to me is the plight of the serial killer detective or follower or opponent or whatever, because you're never sure. You always think, well, maybe it's this person, maybe it's that person, maybe they're doing it for this reason, that reason. I'll never know the reason, and so that seemed to me to be the perfect epigraph. But then when I redid the novel, I used a Bob Seger one about Where Angels Fear to Tread from, I forget which song that's from actually, and because this one I felt it featured the tornadoes more. I'm not saying the first one doesn't have just a whole lot of tornadoes like Twister, but this one I think was built more around the storms. And so I thought I better have a storm dedication. And and actually that 2011 version that came out, it came out as a result of, that book came out in 03 and probably in 04 or 05. I wrote my first I would say comic script. It's a comic style script, but it's a graphic novel script. And what I was doing was I decided I wanted to adapt Beautiful Sinners to a graphic novel. And in doing so, everything had to change. I had to strip everything away and, pare things down and combine things. And when I was through with that script, I kind of liked the way it was leaner and more direct. And so I didn't have any access to the comic book industry. I had no way to publish or get this comic script realized into a graphic novel. And so I just, probably along about 2007, 2008, I just wrote that comic script into a novel, used a lot of the same scenes from the original novel, and then ran it through as an ebook. And that was all well and fine. But for the response I heard is the readers, by and large, or 99.9% prefer the 03 version, And so when Open Road came and said, hey, we want to do Beautiful Sinners, they said, which version? I figured we better go with the one they prefer instead of the one I prefer, and I dig that cover they got together. I like having a tornado there front and center, to tell you the truth, if the original had a cover like that, then maybe I wouldn't have felt compelled to rewrite it as a comic book kind of built around the tornadoes more,
Sure. There it is. Yeah. I remember hearing, I think it was Richard Thomas saying how upset he was that you lost the opening of All the Beautiful Sinners in the design reissue because he said it was one of the most beautiful things he's ever read.
Yeah, that to me, that opening is just like, it's just memories of trauma of working with that publisher and that editor. And so I think I don't have like the right kind of, I can't see it except through that filter, you know?
Yes, yes. Give us the pitch for this book. I mean, it's a bloody, brutal,
Yeah.
vicious serial killer novel.
You know, the pitch for this book is, you know, storms, tornadoes specifically sweep across the Midwest all the time, leave wreckage in their wake. And in that wreckage, before the bodies are counted, what if a fireman showed up or somebody in a fireman costume and snatched people, you know, for his own nefarious reasons, not to make them better, to make them dead eventually. And that's the Tin Man. The Tin Man comes through and gets people before they're counted and does what he does with them, and none of it's nice. And Jim Doe out of Nazareth, Texas, a deputy, gets on the trail of the Tin Man and chases him all across everywhere the grass is yellow, pretty much. He chases him.
The comic book adaptation is from All the Beautiful Sinners, and that's what's kind of served as the basis for the Dzanc version of it.
Correct. Yeah.
Any interest in this in terms of film options?
You know, I don't think anyone's ever, this is one of the very few of my titles that no one has ever come knocking on the door film wise for it, you know? Probably because tornadoes are expensive, you know? I mean, if you're making Twister 2, there's a built-in audience. You can do all the twisters you want, you know? But I don't know if this novel has proven itself enough to gamble $140 million on all these digital storms, you know?
Yeah. Well, with the reissue, folks have a chance to read it fresh. Did you do any revisions to it?
No, I didn't. I was afraid that if I stuck my fingers in, that I would end up doing the same thing I did in 2011. You know, which I still like that version. But I understand that the 2003 version is kind of sacrosanct to a lot of people, and I don't want to mess with it. You know, so I figure I'll just leave it as it is. And so I just looked up that old file, sent it to Open Road, and they made it look pretty.
Yeah, I'm so excited for folks to really get easy access to it now, affordable access to it. So that's very excited for that. And also, you know, speaking of versions and access, and States of Grace, this is one of those books. I do have a copy of the original. This was the last piece I needed to find in my Stephen Graham Jones collection, but this is the 2014 original edition, 50 stories, called States of Grace. I'm guessing related to, you know, the number of states in the U.S. probably there.
Wow, I never even thought of that even once. That's kind of neat. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow. I think it might be 49. I need to go back. It depends on whether you consider dedication.
Yeah.
To be a story, and I do.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, it's pure fiction. I fake like it's not, but it's fiction. Yeah,
but it's you know, one of those pieces that kind of straddles that line between probably fiction and nonfiction, and you know, as you've often said, you know, turning lies into groceries. You know, I think a lot of your career is probably straddling that line between, you know, make a story and I can actually eat in real life, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm much less imaginative than people think. I just write down kind of what happens and change the names and turn up the volume on this and mute that, you know.
What do you think of this new cover?
I like it a lot. Nothing wrong with the previous cover, the 2014 cover, but to me, that 2014 cover is the cover for a poetry book, and this feels like the cover for a book of fiction, you know. But so many of these pieces, like they were public, I would send them to magazines as flash fiction, and then I would get replies from the poetry editor, and they'd say, we're going to run this as a prose poem. So I'd shrug and say, if you're writing it, that's what I care about. It doesn't matter what you know, little area it's in. I'm happy that it's being published, that it can reach people. So yeah, I mean, it does have like poetry DNA in it, I think, except I don't write poems. So there's that, you know.
Yeah, I did. You know, when I went to Texas Tech and looked through your papers, I found some examples of poetry that you wrote. This is like high school or college age. It's a long time ago. And you look at these pieces in States of Grace, and there is an economy of language that I associate with poetry. And yeah, it's short, but it's more than that. It is so very focused on a moment, an image.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's one of these is the sadness of two people meeting in a bar, and it's like an entire Quentin Tarantino film in 615 words. There's an entire story here, and you're simply getting bullet points. And you look at it and say, I could see the entire thing unfolding as a film or novel. But there's something of that, the poetic economy of words, and that's usually a single image or a single feeling. Well, I mean, what is the difference between writing a poem and writing a piece of flash fiction like this?
I wish I had the poetry anthology Vital Signs with me right now. I want to say they came out in like 88 or 90 or something. There's a poem in there called The Difference Between Prose and Poetry, I think, or that's a line from it. And it says the difference between prose and poetry is that moment when sleep becomes snow. And that's always been the only explanation that I really could believe in or subscribe to about the difference in prose and poetry. I mean, we can say, yes, poetry moves more associationally rather than causally. And poetry tends to be more lyric while fiction is more narrative. But I mean, there's lyric stories, there's narrative poems, there's all kinds of stuff that goes both ways. As for me, it's all about compression and scope. It's like there's an axis of those two, and prose poetry and flash fiction being the same thing to me exists right at that intersection of those two. And what I love about flash fiction, I guess the two things I love about it, which is the reason I'll never stop writing it. I just wrote one last night. From the very first line, it's already ending. You've got 600 words here, 800 if you're being generous, And I love that pressure. That's one of my favorite things with writing is pressure. Give me deadlines or give me formal constraints, or give me boundaries of genre conventions, and I can go to town. Give me too much room and I fall down on my face. But give me those baffles and I can do something.
I'm going to give you a restriction here. Yeah, how about if then just you have to be able to fit it on a tattoo on my back. They're short.
Yeah,
I'll get the tattoo and I'll wear it around. And anyone who wants to read this one piece of flash fiction, I'll take my shirt off and they can read it off of my back. How about that?
That's good. There's one in Estates of Grace called In the Beginning, and I think it might be 2 sentences, but they're short sentences. But to me, it's a complete story.
It is. No, it's a moment that's completely beautiful. Of course, wrapped up with this little Garden of Eden image.
It fit on a forearm, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's an incredible piece, and the pieces in States of Grace that are in the original edition. I just made notes of the kinds of stories that are involved and the kinds of themes that you hit, and lost fathers, if there's a lot, violence committed against and by juveniles, some pretty serious stuff there, magical thinking, backroad confrontations, domestic violence, uncertainty, strange kinks. Are featured in there. Though I don't know if there's any such thing as a conventional kink, but there are definitely some strange kinks. Unrequited murder is in there. Personal hygiene features in frequently OCD.
There's a cowboy doing sit-ups too, right, Matt?
Oh yes, there is. I wasn't quite sure how to what to do with that, but there's kind of a face-off with cowboy doing sit-ups.
Yeah.
And then there's an entire novel in the form of a 12-point list.
That's one of my favorite ones, that one about koalas. But maybe that's a third thing I like. I didn't even say the second thing, but that's a third thing I like about flash fiction is that it's not limited by genre. You can put all these things that don't remotely go together, and the form coheres them. That's what another thing I love about flash fiction. But the second thing I like about flash fiction is because of the compression, because of the limited space, then the stories have to mutate or innovate in order to get themselves told. And so you'll have a story that's in the form of a recipe, or stories that are in the form of a Dear Abby letter, that kind of stuff, and that I forever, ever loved that. I'm so drawn to flash fiction because it's constantly innovating. And to me, innovation is how you keep things vital. It's how you introduce new DNA, and I love it forever and ever.
Yes. And there's something about these stories that seems to lend itself really well to either satire or kind of a sardonic approach. Well, it kind of reminds me of The Attack of the 50-Foot Indian.
I write stories like that sometimes that are kind of like a flash fiction, but what if it were 12,000 words long, or 3,000 words long? And like I've done that again. I have this story. What's it called? It's about an economy of hostages, like where you if you go to a restaurant and you want to get a table, instead of calling ahead and making a reservation, you bring a hostage and hold a gun to their head and say, I need a table, and those kind of like absurd builds, to me, they're born in moments of flash fiction, but then sometimes the story just suddenly gets to be a full long story.
And, I know it's constraining. I'm going to write something in, I think flash fiction is typically considered under 1,500 words.
Yeah.
But also I imagine it's kind of freeing in that I'm just going to invest this time in this one idea. I'm just going to unload this on paper and move on. It's not investing, days, weeks, months of your time.
Also, at least as far as I'm concerned, flash fiction doesn't really easily submit itself to being workshopped or to criticism. Like in my workshops I teach, we usually do stories. Sometimes we'll do chapters of novels if I'm doing that kind of workshop, but we never do flash fiction, even though it's my favorite of all the genres, bar none. But the reason we don't is because all you can really do with flash fiction is say yes or no. I don't think you can't say change that, change this. What if you built it like that? To me, none of those are valid. This story took 22 minutes to write, and it's easier to throw it away than it is to fix it, So yeah, I love that it is what it is, and you like it or you don't.
In the new edition of States of Grace coming out December 9 from Open Road Media, there are the original 4950 stories, and then there sounds like there's quite a few more coming in.
Well, I think of those, however many it is, 20, say, of those 20, maybe half of them, maybe they have been published, but there are 10 just I think maybe 10 just brand new, never seen before. I make it sound like never seen before, like we're uncovering something from King Tut's tomb. It's maybe not that momentous, but just weird little stories that I wrote, put in a file. And to tell you the truth, when I was looking through to see what to add to this, I was just lucking on stuff. Like I write all these stories and I forget I write them. I just forget to submit them, and after we finalized this table of contents, I found some more that I was like, oh yeah, that one. Cause I never title my file names for my stories by the story title. I usually title them by something stupid that I thought of while I was writing the story. And therefore I can never find my stories. I have to do that kind of search that searches the text, not the title. Cause I can usually remember a line. And if I can remember a line, I can find the story. But, yeah, I was finding all kinds of stuff that I just forgot to include,
So all of your just like journaling or crazy idea, it's all going on, pretty much going on a digital file, not like in a journal.
No, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a person who journals like as a verb. I mean, I do keep on my phone for the past, 5 years. I probably do keep a little list of lines I think are funny, that kind of stuff, and actually in the past probably 2 years, I've started 2 separate directories on my notes app. One is titles and one is character names. And that's really fun. Those are getting out of hand really fast. They're just way up. I've got like 200 titles that are really good that I just haven't had time to mess around and figure out what stories they go to or what stories I'm going to write under those titles,
Yeah, I've got the notes app with the strange, just the weird phrases. I'll wait for some strange phrase.
Yeah.
No idea if it means anything.
Like last night, the one I added was rib medicine. I want to write a story called rib medicine. I think that'd be cool, because I can't imagine what could be rib medicine. So I want to figure that out,
Yes, exactly. They're kind of this strange linguistic tokens that come to us, and maybe they need something. They're kind of like the images in your dreams.
Well, I hear a lot of writers say they say, where do story ideas come from? And they say just from the confluence of 2 different ideas that don't even remotely go together. And that's kind of how titles are. Like rib medicine is 2 things that don't necessarily go together, but gem them up against each other and you might have something.
Yes, that's right. All right. Well, if you write rib medicine and it will fit on my rib cage, maybe that's the tattoo that we're talking about.
I think there is a rib story. There is a rib story in this collection, isn't there? Bone Choir. Yeah, Bone Choir.
Yeah. That's right.
I wrote that because a doctor, I have a rib that I broke it like 2 or 3 times actually. And I went to the doctor, so it grew back crooked, and it's always coming loose and poking me in the lung, and I'm always having to go to the doctor. And finally, one of these doctors said, we should just screw this rib to your backbone. And I haven't done that yet because I don't know if I really want to. That seems kind of like unhealthy or unhappy or something. So maybe I will. I don't know. I probably should. But I was thinking another option would be just remove that rib, remove that bothersome rib, but then if I do remove my rib, I would hope I get to save it. If I got to save it, it'd be my new pointer for everything,
Would you carve anything into it? I might. Your rib.
I might. I mean, maybe I would just carve Steven's rib in case this became a fad and other people started carrying ribs around and we left them in the rib jar by the door. So I need to be able to find my own, you know?
Yeah, we could create some kind of commission a reliquary to hold your rib, when not in use in the classroom.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great fun. I wonder, would you read one of your short science fiction pieces, just to give people a sense of what it is that flash fiction does?
I'll read probably what I consider the flash fiction that I built this whole collection around. I wrote it, I have no idea what year. Let's say 2004, 2002, maybe 1999. I don't know, somewhere back then. And this is one of those ones that this one's actually 97% true, if I can put that precise a number on it. And it showed up in a journal called 32 Poems. And I think I did maybe 2, maybe 3 flash fictions or prose poems for this journal. It was a little pamphlet, a little staple bound, like 16 page or maybe 32 page pamphlet, something like that. Anyway, yeah, I'll read. Green pants, and my face is probably gonna go bright because I think this background is all bright and white. Green pants. The time I tried to ride one of Tim Lawson's roller skates down the front steps of his house, and he led me back to my house with my teeth pushing through my cheek for my father to drive me to the hospital. I don't remember the pain so much or the sun on my rollers, or that I didn't have to wear my seatbelt this time, even though we were running all the lights, or my father watching me as he drove, but the parking lot where he pulled part of the way into an ambulance slot and crammed the emergency brake in. He looked over at me. "You ready?" he said, and I nodded, and we opened our doors together. But I made it to the back of the car first because my father was standing in the privacy of a still open door, taking his pants off. I just looked at him, the blood collecting in the hollow of my collarbone. My father smiled. "New pants," he whispered, nodding to the hospital. "They've got closets full of them in there." And he took my hand, and together we walked towards the emergency room, one of us with 2 kinds of smiles on his face, each with teeth pushing through, the other in his Sunday boxers, the ones with cartoon fathers and sons all over them, which are really the only kind.
I just love that. What an end. I mean, if you were to try to, you mentioned that, flash fiction really is, you don't really put it in a genre. I mean, that's short piece of literary fiction. It's just one image of a father who's taken advantage of a situation to kind of better his lot in life just a little bit.
Yeah, like I know a lot of people call flash fiction that, Apocalypse in a Teacup, which isn't bad. I consider it like a little aperture, which if you put your eye through it, you can see a whole universe. That's what it feels like to me. What's stupid is I had to go get a MRI, not an MRI, a CAT scan on my head just the other day because of a concussion, and I found myself stealing more scrub pants, so I'm still locked in that mode.
Wait, well, hold on. You said a lot of this is autobiographical. Yeah. Are you the son or the dad in this?
Yeah, no, I was the son. I wonder if I'm becoming the dad,
Wow. Okay. Did you actually get that gash on your cheek?
No, that was my little brother. He came home one day with, he had split his lip right here. And it was like 2 smiles, it was like a big old, like you could see his teeth up here. It was really weird. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's horrifying. Okay. All right. Very good. Wow. The little pro tip though, for new pants, if you want green pants, scrubs, exactly. Easy way to get them. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, I'm very excited to read these new pieces, and also, of course, you just want to quickly remind everyone that the Earthdivers Omnibus is now available from IDW Publishing. You can get it anywhere, or go to your local comic shop, go to your local bookstore, go to bookshop.org to order that. But you mentioned writing comic book scripts pretty early on. I mean, around All the Beautiful Sinners back in the early 2000s. And I've seen a number of scripts that you've written, comic book scripts. We've got pieces for we've got a Memorial Ride, a graphic novel that you wrote. I know Demon Theory, you adapted some Demon Theory and actually got some pencils done. The SST Publications edition of Demon Theory shows some of those comic pencils there. But this is the Omnibus the Earthdivers Omnibus. This is a huge book here. I saw you mention that this is probably the heaviest book that you've ever produced, and it's 16 completed issues there.
It might be, I think it's 18 issues actually. If you got those extra 42 pages as 2 issues, but I was thinking this was the heaviest I'd ever published, but then I wonder, I need to put this on a scale, on like an Anubis scale against some of the SST editions, because those dudes are heavy too. So I need to see what's heaviest,
The David theory
That's probably the biggest one. Yeah.
is definitely thicker.
What about weight though? What do you feel?
Give me just a second. Kitchen scale here. All right. So between these two books, let's do Earthdivers Omnibus. That is 2 pounds 9.34 ounces, and the SST Demon Theory here is 2 pounds 10.82 ounces. So Demon Theory barely beats it out. But I mean, this thing, look at this thing. It's huge. Yeah. And it even does have comic book script and pencil pages in the back. I see some pencils in here.
So although there's a hardcover version of that omnibus, it might be a touch heavier,
Oh, it would be. Oh, yeah. No, we need to go get I want the hardcover version. I don't pardon that now.
I had one. They mailed it to me, and they give me like I had a box, IDW shipped me a box, and I opened it up and just opened the top thing, the top like bubble wrap book, and it was a omnibus and hardcover, and I thought this is cool. So I took it to breakfast the next morning to show to a friend, and he really liked it. So I just gave it to him, and then no more omnibuses in my box. They're all trade paperbacks.
Oh no, that silly hardcover up here.
No, I think there's more. I just have no idea how to get them. I wrote IDW to try to figure out how I can get some more. But I mean, if they made one, they had to have made 100 or 200 or 300.
They certainly look up. Okay, I'm gonna look up how we can order those, because I would like that.
Yeah, it looks really good, man. That's cool.
How does it feel to have, created something that is so significant, and it's a very challenging piece of work. I mean, it's challenges a lot of I think kind of people's ingrained view of America as being like the American enterprise, American endeavor as being something that is you talk about sacrosanct, like that's something you really aren't supposed to question.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, didn't our noble president just come down and reinstate Columbus Day?
Yeah.
This story for me was just pure wish fulfillment. It was if I could go back in time and kill anybody, who would it be? It might very well be Christopher Columbus. Just to delay contact. Like I have a chapter in The Bird Is Gone, I think it is. That's back from 2002 or 2003, where somehow somebody in it has time travel, and they're going back in time, and they might kill Columbus. I don't remember that, but I remember what they're really trying to do. And I built this all around the Harlan Ellison story called The Man Who Rode Christopher Columbus Ashore, which I guess it makes sense. I would have Columbus in my story if I based it on that. And whoever it is that has time travel is going back and inoculating everyone who lives on the North American continent, so that smallpox, the flu, all that stuff won't hit us, in the same way. And then we can push back a lot more effectively. So I've been thinking about this for quite a long time, and I was really lucky to get to do it with IDW. And, as for why I did it, people always ask, why'd you do it as a comic and not a novel or a series of novels or something? And that's an easy answer to me. And I mean, that's 2 answers. So yes, the first answer is I love comic books. I'm always reading comic books. I just dropped too much money on Wednesday at the comic book store again, and I'll always be doing that, I think. But even though I don't have room for comics anymore, I'll keep doing that. But the big reason I did it as a comic book instead of prose fiction is I just don't know where all the ropes go on those ships, And I think if I were to write a novel, I'd have to figure that out. And I don't like doing research, so I'm not going to. So it's easier for me to lay that off on an artist and say, you figure out where the ropes go. I can't slow down. I don't want to slow down to think about that kind of stuff. But what the boon to that is, an artist like Davide has this amazing talent and visual imagination, and so he can do dynamic layouts that I never guessed. Davide's real specialty, as near as I can tell, which I leaned into as the issues like gathered or accumulated, was 2-page spreads. Like he could do a whole issue of nothing but 2-page spreads, the same way that Joe Hill did that one issue of Lock and Key that was all splash pages, And I love those kind of tricks or conceits or whatever. used to, I'd read the afterwards or introductions or hear interviews of comic book writers talking about how they waited until they knew who they were going to be working with as an artist to write their scripts because they wanted to tailor the story to fit that artist. I never understood that until I worked with Davide. And I understand it now that your artist is going to have certain like temperaments and predilections, and the story becomes better if you as a writer can suss those out and lean into them and allow them to have room to play in the fields they like to play in, you know?
I can't imagine the New Mutants comic would become what it became without the combination of Chris Claremont and Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah, no, Sienkiewicz, he's so like I could never. I don't think I could ever diagnose his pencils because his panels are so like they look cluttered and messy. But once you add colors and inks, it all gels into this beautiful visual, you know. But I think looking at his pencils, you'd be like, did somebody drop a bunch of mechanical pencils onto the page? What's going on?
Yes, yeah, yeah, and it's an incredible work that's so evocative, like a painter is evocative.
Yeah, it is. Who was that one? Was it Havoc? That one New Mutant that's all like tall, like a electrical Gumby or something. You know, what was that one called? And like,
No, that's Warlock. You think Warlock, an alien who came to Earth and became friends with the New Mutant, and he is kind of a Gumby-looking figure.
Yes,
he's got all the lines. He's all black with all the lines of electricity and data and stuff flowing through him.
Him and that werewolf girl. What was her name?
Rain or Ronnie.
That's right.
Yeah. Rain Sinclair is how I read it.
Yeah, those two are the ones that it felt like Sienkiewicz really liked to get kinetic with his art, his lines with. You know.
Yes, yes. And Legion, his character Legion, who had split personalities and was a telepathic and telekinetic, and just the way he was designed with his hair going straight up. That was just fascinating stuff. But any comic books, more comic books in the future?
Yeah, I'm just now in the process of. I got invited to do a title, like a long storied title that I never thought anyone would get to touch. I might have access. You know, I might get to write a limited series with this character, this title. I probably can't announce it yet. I did say it at an event the other day. I don't know if I should have said it, but we haven't actually signed on the dotted line yet. So when we figured out probably 90% of the stuff, but there's still some stuff that needs to be hammered out. And once we get that done, hopefully we're off to the races. But it'll be fun and challenging, and that's why I like to do this. I get invited to do a whole lot of comic projects. I turn most of them down, but this one, it's like, you mean I can touch the Holy Grail? You know, why not?
So this is an established character.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can you say that's one of the big two?
Not one of the big two. No, that'd be Batman. No, although I'm in talks to do a Batman thing too, which I couldn't say no to, you know?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Oh my goodness. Wow. Fascinating. Okay. But we're excited to hear more news about that when you're able to say something. Any movie news, TV news? Earthdivers had been optioned, I know, for a TV series. Is that still a possibility?
No, the showrunner for that actually ended up being one of the executive producers and writers for Noah Hawley's Aliens, you know, or his Alien Art, I guess. Which was an amazing season of television. I thought I could not have been more impressed with that. But yeah, Hulu picked it up, and you know, we had a showrunner. We might have even had a first script if I remember correctly. But then who was it? Isley, a new like head of Disney came on. And so Hulu being like a, you know, subset of Disney or whatever, subsidiary, I don't know what the word is. It kind of had a lot of the blood squeezed out of it. Like less the productions that were overly violent got canned basically, you know, and Earthdivers was definitely going to be quite violent. So it was one of the ones that they said no thank you to after buying it, you know. And so, but they were really nice about it. They, instead of using up all of their term, they give it all back to us. Yeah. But yeah, other stuff, I guess I was just up on the reservation. Was it 2 weekends ago? Maybe 3 weekends ago. I can't remember where I was, but I was up on the reservation with the director and writer of that, looking at locations, which is promising, you know. And Teenage Slasher has a writer. It's got a director and producer attached already, and it's got now the writer of one of my favorite slashers from the last 7 years. And what else? Oh, Buffalo.
You were up on the reservation.
Yeah,
we were talking about and the writer and director was that's the only good Indian then.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So that is a known thing now.
No, it's not announced yet. No, I never push for like getting like these announcements in Deadline or Variety or any of those places because I don't know. It's like some like Hollywood projects. It seems like they're always in a different state of falling apart, you know. And so when you make an announcement in Deadline, I always feel like almost like that's a jinx, you know. And I mean, I know it makes interest in all the other properties go up, and so I probably like just from a business sense should do it. But I don't know. It always feels a little weird to me, so I don't push for it. If somebody else wants to do it, fine. And also Buffalo Hunter has I mean, it doesn't have a director yet. It's got a studio or a production company. I guess production company is the actual term. And let's see, no director. However, the person you would expect to be the first person you expect to be signed on to inhabit Good Stub is that person. I guess I can say that, you know.
Okay, I know who. I think I know exactly who you're talking about, and is signed on.
Yeah, I mean they're attached, and I'm not sure if it's in a legal sense, but
Right.
yeah,
There's interest has been expressed. I mean, incredible. Wow. Okay, that is incredible to know.
Oh, and also Josh Stolberg, he and I are still working, or he mostly. You know Josh, don't you?
Oh yeah,
Okay, yeah, Josh. So you might know about his Last Final Girl stuff he's doing. You know,
I've seen a little bit of the artwork. Nice, Augustus worked on. Yeah, it looks incredible.
Yeah, it really does, man. It really does.
So an animated like a motion comic book version of The Last Final Girl.
Yeah,
So that's kind of moving forward. So far, everything's looking good with that.
it is, man. It is.
Wow, that's going to be really, really neat. I hadn't really seen a motion comic book before, but the artist Jason Regusta showed a bit of the work and how just kind of how it looks, and it looks beautiful. For some, folks will maybe will know Jason's work because he did those incredible movie poster style illustrations for several of your books. I Was a Teenage Slasher. He did Don't Be the Reaper and the Indian Lake. But yeah, I've seen some of his work for Last Final Girl, and it looks amazing.
It really does. Yeah, it's so cool. Let me think. What other projects? I think that's all. There's all the stuff that's sort of hot right now. Anyways, yeah.
Nice. In any interest in has anyone shown any interest in the Lazarus Complex?
No, not yet. I think that's so dark and twisted that people might stay away.
I'm starting to realize, like, there are films like Brian Bertino's The Dark and the Wicked.
Yeah.
Incredible. It's so good. It's really frightening. It's very bleak, very dark. And it's just so well executed and wonderfully performed. I'm so impressed with it. And yet it is so dark. It probably is not going to be a commercial hit.
It'd be fun to see the rough cuts, like if he does a 3-hour rough cut of his films, if it's like filled with like slapstick comedy and he cuts all that out and just leaves the dark stuff, you know?
And I actually met one of the executive producers for Dark and the Wicked at a film festival, and he said, like Bertino, he was very, very serious on set, very serious.
Really?
Sounds like maybe to the point of being obsessed with getting it right. And I think he did, but I can't imagine it was much fun.
I wonder what the set for The Begotten was like, you know?
I can't even imagine. Like, you'd think it would not. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. That's a rough one. I've been inspired by a number of like the Addams Family films. The Addams family who's making movies. I got to meet John Adams on Saturday at a showing of Mother of Flies, and I'm just fired. It's just this basically family of four with a few friends who go and make movies. Some of them really scripted, some of them not as tightly scripted, and you're getting together and creating characters and creating stories and shooting beats around town at their house, etc., and just try to create something that is very uniquely them.
Oh, I agree. I met one or two of those Addams Family people last weekend at Telluride Horror Show, and then when it came time for the Saturday screening of Mother of Flies, I had to be somewhere else. I don't remember where else, but because I'm a guest at these things, sometimes I have different obligations, you know.
Yes, yeah, it's a lot like I think Paul's very well in line with Hellbender, very much about you get a close look at a family dynamic. In this case, a father and daughter. As well as kind of witchcraft, earth-based religion element that we saw in Hellbender. That's back here. And you see a story of basically a teenage girl who's got cancer, and the cancer's come back, and she's looking at an unorthodox way to try to get a cure because medical science hasn't done it for her. So yeah, it's a pretty touching film in sense.
Unorthodox way to cure. That's kind of like the same thinking as, what was it? Anything for Jackson, right?
Oh yeah. Unorthodox way. Well, yeah, they're trying to cure death in that case, or let's make a reincarnation happen.
Talking unconventional like solutions, I guess Bring Her Back is also an unconventional solution, right?
Yeah, definitely. Man, what'd you think of that film? It's
I like my favorite part was that VHS tape that they would play pieces of. That was the part I liked, man.
I hope that like when the the Blu-ray comes out, they'll have special features including that entire VHS.
Yeah, it really reminded me of Nathan Ballingrud's Visible Filth story. A whole lot.
Yes. You know what it reminded me of? Father, Son, Holy Rabbit.
Cool.
Because you see in Bring Her Back a woman who is, because of her love for her daughter who she has lost, it drives her to a point of desperation, and she does something that is unnatural. Just like Father, Son, Holy Rabbit. Love is a source of horror.
That's good. I know.
It's very strange. It's like, no way. Love is the opposite of horror. No. In this case, love drives two parents to extreme measures because of the love for their child. And what love is more powerful than a parent's love for their child?
That's a good point. I never like think to compare my own stuff to media I encounter, because I always think, for me specifically, that's a terrible lens to use. I shouldn't compare everything to what I've done, But you're totally right. You're totally right. That's the same dynamic.
There's just something there that to me, like, that's when I see something really unique, which is why I would put Father, Son, Holy Rabbit in like my top 10 horror stories of all time. That's up there, along with like Edgar Allan Poe or The Jaunt by Stephen King. Like, it's doing something that is so startling and makes and in its way makes so much sense.
Thank you. Well, I think I would put Nathan's Visible Filth at the probably tippity top of all the horror stories I've encountered. That story just always the chapbook version of it. That story really does it for me.
Yes. And did you see the movie Wounds?
I did. Yeah. Army Hammer, right?
Yeah. Army Hammer and Dakota Johnson.
Yeah.
Of course, Army Hammer. You bring up that name that has some additional baggage now.
So I was in a writer's room for a television show when that news popped, and the whole 4 hours we were supposed to be writing stories and talking beats that afternoon. All everybody talked about was Army Hammer the whole time.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrible.
I didn't even know who he was, but I'm sure I'd recognize his face if I saw him. I really can't tell him and Thomas Jane apart. They look the same to me,
There's actually I was talking to Nathan about that movie. I rewatched it like last year, and it was like, wow, I love that bit where for a fraction of a second there is the ghost of a boy in a room, and it's gone like that. It's impressive. Like, what did you like? I mean, that's not like a reference in the story. Did you talk? And he didn't know it was there. He hadn't seen it before. It was it's a really quick one, but I just caught it out of the corner of my eye.
Well, also with that movie Wounds, you also have to watch right like until the first credits roll on the screen, and you see what happens in that last like half a second.
I totally missed it the first time I saw it. The second time I'm like, oh no, is that what I think it? Oh. It's really revulsion.
It's a good adaptation, I think.
I do too. It's so creepy. It's one of those stories where you've got like the scenario. Bartender finds that a cell phone's been left behind by someone, and he answers the call or opens it up, sees it, but he starts getting messages on the cell phone, and it starts messing with his world, including like internet searches, and there's some stuff that they're finding on the internet, or that his girlfriend finds that messes with her brain. Did you read Michael Wehunt's The October Film Haunt?
I did. Yeah, I think I blurbed that one. Yeah, I did blurb that one. I like that a lot. And I was actually surprised to like it. Not, I mean, I like Michael's writing. That's not the reason I was surprised. I was surprised because it kind of goes in a cult direction, and I usually go the other way from cult stories. So it's just a testament to the strength of his storytelling that this one really worked for me in spite of my own, like, I don't know, prejudices against cult stories,
Yes, yeah. I do something about it that I don't know, when I got to about page 100 and there's the name of a person I've actually interacted
there is
in real life, and he is someone who most people reading that novel will know is an artist for sure. He famous horror illustrator. He becomes a character in the story, and I was like, oh my gosh, who else is going to show up that I know?
Yeah, it was fun, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a lot of fun. The last thing I want to mention about Earthdivers is was at the Tennessee powwow yesterday. It's a pretty big event here in Nashville, and I was got a burger on fry bread and was munching on that at one of the picnic tables, and a lady sat down next to me, struck up a conversation, and she's an Apache woman, Apache and Mexican, grew up in California and was here for the powwow, and expressed a bit of dismay that the kind of the history of colonization and what happened to indigenous people in North America, and the Catholic, in particular Catholic churches, complicity in atrocities against indigenous people, will kind of, that history is going by the wayside, is getting, even in places like powwows, you don't get a lot of that. And that, especially with the current administration and the direction things are leaning with public education, that stuff's just going to disappear, and you won't have the honest truth about atrocities that happen against indigenous people. And I wonder if there's a place for or purpose for books like The Buffalo Hunter and Earthdivers, where some of that, yes, fictionalized, yes, fantastical in nature, but some of that truth can actually be told maybe in a little bit of an underground way through the comic shops, through the bookstores, etc. What do you hope people will take away from a book like Earthdivers?
Well, I think it's actually less about saying the Marias Massacre or the Bear Creek Massacre happened on January 23rd, 1870, and then going through the events of it and the buildup and the fallout and all that stuff. I think it's less about actually documenting that, and it's more about getting the rage down on the page, because I think if the readers who encounter the story sense that rage, then they might say, why is this person so angry? And then they might look it up on their own, So I think that probably in 10 or 15 years, people might look back at like this little decade or era or moment of native lit or native horror and say it all veers through a massacre, and they might call it massacre lit or something, which is just another name for, what trauma porn, I guess. But I don't think that's what it is. I think it is about finding a focal point for the rage and a way to deliver it, and to also encase it in such a way that it's not a thing that happened, but a thing that's happening. If any bit of that can get across, then I'm happy. But also, if people just want to read a vampire story, that thrills me as well. I think fiction gets boring when it's like a polemic or a speech or a didactic. Yeah, that to me is not interesting. Why not just write it as an article or an essay or something? I think you have to smear a lot of icing, a lot of genre conventions, a lot of fun and entertainment on top. And if people just want to eat the icing, that's 100% fine. In some books I want to write them as all icing, that those are kind of the most fun to write, actually.
Yeah. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
What can we expect coming up next from you in terms of completely new books?
Just about 3 minutes before I started this Zoom with you, I just finished a story that I think is, and maybe this is recency bias, but I think it's the coolest thing I've done for quite a long time, and I'm really happy with it at the moment. I'm sure I'll be sad about it later, but I'm happy about it now.
The commission piece, does it already have like a?
No, it's nobody's waiting for it. It's just a random story I wrote, but it actually came together and worked. I did not think it was going to work, but it found itself, and I'm quite thrilled that it did. But that's just a story. I've got a few more stories coming out. Bell the Ball is coming soon on reactor.com. I've got another story in a Detlo anthology. don't remember the name of that story, but it'll probably get me canceled. I don't know. It's quite violent. And then One Bad Night, that's not out yet from Aardvark, is it? I don't think it just came out. Okay, we're
earlier this month, maybe. I think they started shipping around September.
Oh, they did. Oh, good. I'm glad it's reasonable. I'm glad that's my first time to have the title story. Like, I mailed my story in, and then they sent back the cover. Yeah, and then the cover was the title of my story, and I thought, well, that's pretty cool.
That wasn't planned.
As far as I know, it wasn't. I mean, I guess I could look at the genealogy of the emails that I got. Maybe they told me call it One Bad Night. I don't think so. People generally don't tell me what to call my stories, So
was there like a thematic? Hey, we just want to have someone experience one really bad night.
No, it was like that Detlow anthology from, was it 2014? I got a story in there, The Spindly Man. I'm trying to stall so I can remember the title. It's a really good title. Anyways, it's like that anthology where it's just like tell a horror story, and those are my favorite kind of anthologies. Actually, that's not to say, like, if somebody sends me an invite, we're doing an anthology of race car driving vampires, I'm probably going to sign on. Those really absurd themes I always am kind of a fool for. But
Fearful Symmetry.
Yeah, Fearful Symmetries. That's it. That was a heck of an anthology. I thought I was quite proud to be in that.
I think that's one of her probably best known. But it has been a few years.
Yeah. But and let's see, I probably got some more stories coming out that I can't even remember. I just can't stop writing stories. Like, if I have 20 minutes between things, I'll write a story. I've got all these stories over here to the left. You can't see them, that I write on notebooks that are this size. And usually when I'm caught at a meeting or sitting in a bus stop or wherever I'm at, I'll pull out a notebook and write a story, tear it out and staple it and throw it over here for someday. If I ever run out of stories, I'll transcribe all those stories, but I never have gotten around to it. So I've just got a lot of those.
How many stories do you think are in that little pile right now?
Oh, probably 6, I guess. I don't know. And there's one you might have seen at the Texas Tech archive thing, the Sal collection. It's a story that I wrote on paper like that, but then I think my dog chewed it up, and so I've got all the shreds in a Tupperware container. And yeah,
like ancient papyrus. You can kind of assemble it, and I wasn't sure if it was a novel, an outline of a novel or a story, but it's in a little Tupperware container. Yeah. I think it's like a napkin, like maybe a napkin.
Probably. Yeah, I used to write a whole lot on paper towels, but that's probably what that mean. Yeah, that's it for sure. And it is a story. I remember zero about that story. I remember nothing about the stories I write, pretty much. I just write them and move on to the next one, But
that's amazing.
But as far as books go, yeah, there's probably over the spring and summer, I bet there'll be 2 more reissues of old titles, out of print titles. And then in fall, I've got my next saga book coming, which has not been announced yet, but I'm just starting to hear some of the rough cover ideas for it.
Well, I'm glad to hear there are some more reissues in the works, because there are at least 2 books that I know have had rights issues and they're no longer on the market. You can buy that, maybe find copies on eBay. They're not going to be cheap. So very excited about that. And I think we're maybe looking at a point where all of your books will be in print.
Yeah. I think so, except for Seven Spanish Angels. That one's, I've got the rights to that. I just haven't elected to publish it again.
Yeah. And that never actually got published in print. I think there was an ebook version for a while. Giselle's site.
Yeah, there was for a few years, but that's gone now, and I don't know if it'll come back or not. I need to look at it again. My memory is that there's some moments in it that, not that I regret them, but that I think I didn't do as well as could have been done, and so that's why I've been hesitant about republishing. I need to just look at it again and see what's what.
I know there's there is a draft of Bunnyhead Chronicles 2.
Oh yeah.
It came from Del Rio's sequel. There's a chance we might see that someday.
I haven't even thought about putting that out. I don't know. I'm sure I could I'm not sure, but I could probably find a publisher to put it out. I'd have to look at that one again as well. I like the way it ends a lot. I think I like everything about it, actually. So I don't know why it's not out. I wrote it for Trapdoor, who did Del Rio, and then it feels like within the same 2 weeks that I finished that novel, Trapdoor shuttered its windows. They said, we're gone. And I figured, oh, well, I'll just put this in the drawer and never see the light of day again, But yeah, it was fun. It has Oh, if you watch that Noah Hawley Alien Earth thing, it's got that eyeball alien. It has those tentacles. I got one of those in the second Bunny Head book, more or less.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I also saw when I was looking through the papers in the South, like at Texas Tech, a novel called American Neanderthal,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
I mean, the whole novel, unpublished novel.
yeah.
Maybe why did that get shelved rather than published? Well, how do you make that decision?
Because it got rejected a lot. I wrote it after Mongrels, and my new agent at the time, BJ Robbins, submitted it to all the bigs, and everyone said no, thank you. They did not like American Neanderthal, and that tells me not that they're stupid, but that they're probably right, that it's somehow not doing what it could be doing. And I do have a big long list of bullet points on my computer somewhere where I've outlined not how to fix it, but how to reconceptualize it and use a few of the same bits and parts to tell it in a better fashion, I guess. But I do want to publish that. And actually, that comic book series that I'm talking about doing, I'm having to be really careful because I don't want to incorporate the American Neanderthal story into this story. But it keeps wanting to happen because I really want to tell that story. And I like that title a lot too, but I'm sure somebody else is going to use it before I actually get to use it, which will break my heart. I also have in those archives, Texas is Burning, a really big crime novel I wrote. I've got Washed in the Blood, which I remember it was on Amazon back in like 2013. And the description, whoever they assigned to do the copy on that, just outlined the whole novel step by step in like 600 words. So it was really weird. That was actually an elk novel too. To me, it was an elk novel. My second elk novel at the time after Leadfeather. And
The long something at Saber Ridge.
Oh yeah, I got the Last Stand at Saber Ridge. That's gonna be coming out. I would guess 27,
Really?
maybe 28. But I finally the other night, like I've been wondering. I wrote that novel a few years ago, and I thought it worked 100%. My agent told me it works like 0.1%, and we sold it anyways. But and my Joe Montiasaga has not read it. I don't know if I've ever sent it to him actually. But the other night, not on purpose at all, I figured out how to redo that novel and make it work. But first, I'm trying to not jump into it because like this week, I think I'm getting notes back on my next saga novel. So I need to save room for that right now. But also in those archives, there's let's see, what's it called? Bloodlines, my first werewolf novel. I wrote that in 99. There's No Rest for the Wicked, my first vampire novel. I wrote that in 99 as well. I've got one called, I don't know if it's a screenplay or a novel, Stay. That was really fun. It was about a Steve Perry character who drives an El Camino and fights the capital punishment.
That's awesome. Oh, I know Steve Perry really was quite a figure to you in your teenage years.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a piece about him. What's it called? Don't Stop Believing, I guess. But I don't know where it's published. It's published somewhere. I forget where. I've probably got some more novels. I've got one. What's it called?
I think there were at least 6 that were unpublished.
Yeah, the Hedonist Chronicles. I've got that one. I've got a partial called Fiction House, like Haus, all one word, Fiction House. I never finished that because I decided I was just indulging myself at the reader's expense. So why do that? I don't know. Yeah, I probably got a few. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, what do Neanderthals mean to you? You keep coming. I think it's like really part of your. I don't know. You study a lot about humans.
I read every book I can, every article I can. Joe Lansdale and I were always swapping links about Neanderthal stuff and Denisovan stuff and like just Homo erectus stuff, but mostly it's like 100,000 years ago stuff, which isn't to say Homo erectus wasn't around 100,000 years ago. They were because of Homo floresiensis, the Hobbit. But anyways, what is it about it? I think it's the same impulse I had when I was 12 years old and I had to get out of the house for the afternoon in West Texas. And so I just run off into a pasture in the heat of the day. And I would find these old houses that were from like 1918 that had fallen down. They were just a roof and, junk. And I would go to where their midden was, their trash pile, and I would get a stick and I would dig through those like an archaeologist, just looking for old bottles I could tell stories around, and just old little trinkets that weren't important in 1912, but they are important to me now, because I can tell a story. I can like guess what they meant and how they worked and everything. And I think that's what it is with Neanderthals for me, that I can read all about, how they died out and what their last days were like and how they made spears and, and the art they did and everything like that. And I can tell a story around them in my head. And I think there's also the kind of hope, which is useless. It's unfounded hope, but that doesn't mean like hope doesn't need to be founded. I don't think, this is completely unfounded hope that I'm going to figure out something about them that none of the paleoanthropologists have figured out. None of the evolutionary biologists have cracked. And I do have 2 or 3 things actually that I think they have not figured out, but I'm going to put those into American Neanderthal.
Nice. I would love to see that, just knowing how important that figure is to you, and your interest in it. I would love to see that novel eventually, or something, comic book novel, essay, 12 bullet points in a flash fiction piece that explains this is what happened to them.
I wonder too, before I was actually reading about Neanderthals, when I was an undergrad, I was reading mostly philosophy back then. My wife, my girlfriend at the time, Nancy, she would read me Planet of the Cave Bear while we were driving or just hanging around. She was reading a whole series of books, and that's Neanderthals, And so I wonder if that's where I first got connected to Neanderthals. I don't know.
It would make sense. I mean, we all kind of grew up with this sense of the caveman, or maybe Bigfoot is something like, Bigfoot haunted the childhood of a lot of Gen X, Gen X kids, but maybe there's some kind of a mystical kind of connection.
Yeah, well, I think we're also just as people, or maybe as storytellers, I'm not sure. I think we're all storytellers, that I think we're drawn to that which is gone, that which is unrecoverable, at least until we clone them or something. I don't know. But it's really compelling to us. Like scarcity breeds interest in a way,
Yes. You mentioned the bottles, and what was the name of that part of the house called?
Midden, Midden, just where you throw your trash and burn your trash or whatever.
The Midden there. My son Aussie and I, when he was in high school, junior high school, he would just have me get the car and let's go drive somewhere in Tennessee, the least populated part of the state we could reach in a day. We would just go and drive around, and he was just fascinated with infrastructure. In particular, we would just go on these back roads, sometimes unmarked roads. We go on these roads where there was nothing. There was nothing for miles. Why would this have been built here? So what's the purpose of it? There's some kind of a story behind that.
Yeah, there really is. And I don't know if it's a longing for roots or wanting to be part of a network, a system, like to understand the context. I don't know what the impulse is exactly, but it is undeniable,
Yeah. I guess if you'll see stories, in particular like Japanese, Korean stories, TV shows, comics, or whatever, where everyone in town wakes up, no one can remember who they are, what happened. They don't remember yesterday, but now they're all in a situation where they're completely unrooted.
Yeah. But yeah, talking manga, like there's so many versions of Drifting Classroom, which is, tell you the truth, I would like to look at the history of manga, and I wonder if it precedes Lost, or if Lost kind of lit up a certain subgenre of it, because there's a lot of stories like that about a town losing its memory or whatever, or a classroom being sent into the void, which to me are all lost stories, but I may call them lost stories because I wasn't reading manga in 2006, or 2003, whenever it happened.
Yeah, for sure. Anything? Thank you. I appreciate you giving me so much of your time today. Anything else that's newsworthy that you want to mention, or just things that movies you've seen lately that have been really interesting?
Last movie I went to was Dust Bunny, Brian Fuller's Dust Bunny, and Dust Bunny is really good. I completely love that. I was thinking about going and seeing not Dust Bunny, Good Boy tonight. My wife's out of town, so I can blast off in the evening to do whatever I want. Not that she constrains me, but I just don't like to be away from her, So if she is away, then I can sneak off to see 16 movies in a row.
Well, again, thanks, Stephen. I'm so excited for these books, these reissues coming out, and even more reissues coming out, maybe as early as next year. Okay. And then another new book coming out from Saga. Very excited about it. Awesome. Thanks, Stephen, so much.
Good talking to you, man. Later.
Absolutely.